All right, everybody, welcome back to the best damn training channel on YouTube. Weight room day today, switching it up a little bit though. I'm gonna be adding in some of tomorrow's upper body work into today's session because tomorrow I'm gonna go back to the track and try to do a little bit more running. So I'm taking tomorrow's bench press and maybe the rows and doing that today. Definitely gonna do at least the bench press. I might save some of the accessory stuff and just do it tomorrow after I'm done running. But I want to get on the track again and do a little bit more sprint volume because I feel like I'm going to need that if I want to hit my goal of 24 miles an hour. So I'm switching things up a little bit this week, and then I'll see if that's something that I want to stick with. But we're going to start off with trap bar deadlifts, get up to about 205 kilos. I'll put the velocity tracker on the barbell. We'll track some speeds on that because the goal is, as we're up in the weight, we still want to move things with intent. We want to move things fast, even though we're doing more of like a strength focused type training block. So I'm going to be putting the velocity tracker on that and trying to keep everything above 1 point something meters per second. And we'll do 4 sets on that. So I got 165 on the bar here. I'm just doing sets of 3 as I've been warming up. And we'll go 185 and then we'll go 205 for our last 2 warm-up sets here. So as I'm warming up, I've had an idea of what my next training cycle is going to be after we finish this summer speed. And originally I thought I was going to run a new version of Unit 2.0. And if you're not familiar with what Unit 2.0 is, it's a 16-week program I created that essentially encompasses my training style. You're going to be doing a lot of sprinting, a lot of plyos, Olympic lifts, heavy lifting, everything encompassed in the one program. It's 16 weeks. It's overall probably one of the best, if not the best training program I've written in terms of just general athletic development. So there's nothing specific that we're training for other than like we're specifically trying to get fast, get strong, and get explosive on that program. It's not like we're running specifically a 40-yard dash or doing the power clean or the bench press test like we did with the combine program. It's more of like an encompassing program of trying to do it all in a 16-week period. So I had some ideas on if I were to write that program over again, what are some things I would change? Is there progressions I would do differently? And I was thinking about editing that program and making it a new updated version for those who are on the subscription program. But then the Apex competition that Tim and I have been working on, Tim did kind of like a test run, the first ever Apex competition last weekend, and had a lot of success with it, had a lot of fun with it. And that got me thinking like, maybe I want to do an Apex program. And if you're not familiar with Apex, Apex is a competition that Tim and I have been developing where there's 7 tests and you score points over the course of those 7 tests. And the person or people who score the most points at the end of the 7 tests ends up winning the Apex competition. So it starts off with an overhead med ball toss for distance, a broad jump, a max approach vertical jump, a 40-yard dash, trap bar deadlift AMRAP for 1 minute. It's 315 for the men. I'll have to look up again what the weights are for the women. I believe it's 225 for the women. But then you do a bench press AMRAP, so 225 for the men, and I think it's 155 for the women. And then you end with a 1 mile run. And the idea that I have now is I want to do an Apex program, end with the competition, and have prizes set up for those people who completed the entire program and were able to score like in the top 3 overall for the Apex competition. And I'm kind of leaning towards that. I think the Apex thing would be a lot more fun to do than just doing an updated version of the Unit 2.0 program because it gives everyone an end goal. Plus Apex is going to end up being a fucking huge thing. And I think there's going to be some big competitions with that. And people are really loving what they're seeing with Apex. So it gives a lot more specificity in terms of we're training for this. We know exactly what we're doing at the end of this. There's going to be a competition. And then you'll have your Apex number, total number of points that you scored for Apex. And you could redo the program and try to beat your score, change up a little bit, maybe you had an event that was lacking comparative to something else and you want to try to improve that while maintaining other qualities. I think it's a fun way to train. So I'm leaning more towards doing the Apex side of things. And prize-wise, I want there to be prizes for the end of this. So this is going to be released on my subscription program. And what I think I'm going to do is announce probably 2 weeks in advance from the start of the program to let people sign up. And then once the program is started, I'm going to block new signups from happening. That way, everyone who started on day one is going to be the people who are eligible. So you can't come in like week 10, 11 and sign up just to try to win and get some prizes. You have to be there from day one, do the entirety of the program, and then end the program with the Apex competition. I think it's going to end up being a 12-week program. I like 12-week programs just because they flow very well. So I'll announce it probably a couple weeks in advance, saying if you want to sign up for this, do the Apex competition, have the potential to win these prizes, which I don't know what the prizes would be yet, but I think some variation of cash prizes plus maybe swag and goods from sponsors that might be involved in this as well. But you have to be signed up from day one. I'm going to then lock registration so nobody new can come in over the course of that 12 weeks. Everyone who's there will be there. We'll all compete. We'll end with the Apex competition, and I think that'll be really fun. So I'm leaning towards that a little bit more. If we don't do it in the next training cycle, we're definitely going to do it at some point in time on the subscription plan, but that's kind of what I've been leaning towards for the next training phase. But as for Summer of Speed, we're on week 6 right now. Week 6 is kind of a progression in load from everything that you guys saw last week. So the trap bar deadlifts are going to be a little bit heavier. We're going to do that eccentric focused RDL, try to do that a little bit heavier as well. And then obviously we're throwing in the bench press today because I want to get back onto the track tomorrow to try to do a little bit more running. So 185, honestly, felt kind of heavy. A little low energy today, but we're gonna throw on 205. I'm gonna put the sensor on the barbell, and then we're gonna start knocking off our sets for the trap bar. All right, this first set is gonna be heavy. All right, so we look at the reps on that. Yeah, we're like 1 flat up to 218. So maybe that, no, we got some 195s in there. So 192, 195, 17, 169, 218, 129 on the last rep. Barbell is gonna be moving good. I like how it felt, even though it felt a little bit heavy. So we got 3 more sets of that. I had to switch it up a little bit. I took a 10 off, reloaded the bar so that I got the collars on that won't slide around, because those little spring-loaded collars were making the weights shift off a little bit. That set felt considerably better. And if I'm looking at set 2, yeah, we had a lot higher average on that. So 2.1 was the fastest, a lot of 1.9s in there, and then a 164 or a 127 for my first rep, sorry. And again, those times are all gonna be based off of peak velocity. It's not like the average. If I look at the average velocity over the course of those repetitions, yeah, we're at like high 0.90s to low 1 meters per second. But it steadily increases over the course of each of those reps, obviously, because the first rep's always gonna be the worst because we're starting from a dead stop. But then as we do the touch and go repetitions, those will start to increase in average velocity, because that touch and go is going to be a lot faster than stopping, resetting, and trying to pull from a dead stop again. Which for me, I like the touch and go repetitions, because if I'm looking at lifting heavy loads as quickly as possible, like I've been saying over the last couple weeks, is I have a percentage in mind on where I want to be on the bar. I'm not going to let the velocity dictate the load on the bar. I'll choose a variation of that same load that allows me to move the bar closer to the velocities that I want to see. So like we've been doing with the box squats and the pin press, it allows me to hit those intensities that I want to hit, still feel a heavy external load at percentages that I want to be at, but choose variations that allow me to move those loads a little bit quicker. So obviously a box squat's going to move faster than a full ass to grass squat, given that the weight is the same. A pin press should move better than a full bench press. Touch and go reps on the deadlifts should move faster than dead stop resetting on each of those repetitions. And you can see it here just in there. The first rep's always the slowest, and then it goes considerably faster as we continue over the course of the 6 repetitions, because we're not going from a dead stop trying to break that inertia. We're just tapping and we're trying to go as quickly as you can. So I got 2 more sets on this. Velocities are looking good. Everything's like high 1s to a couple reps in the low 2s. So we'll maintain that here, and then we'll move on to some eccentric focused RDLs. All right, now we're gonna move to the drop catch RDL. So drop catch means I'm gonna start at the top, release the barbell, let that bar fall, and I'm gonna drop down, catch it, and try to decelerate that bar as quickly as possible and stand myself back up to my starting position. I would like to be about 60 to 70 kilos on this today, as long as I don't cheat it. So what I mean by cheating it is I wanna be able to be confident enough to like release the barbell, drop down and catch that bar. I don't want to be cheating and kind of like releasing it, catching it, and then guiding the bar down. I want to try to meet the bar down towards the bottom, catch it, try to decelerate it as quickly as possible, and stand myself back up. Last week I was doing this, I think, with 40 kilos. So trying to get to 60, 70 kilos is a pretty significant jump, but I felt like the 40 kilos was fairly easy last week. So we'll start with 40 and see how this feels. And I'm gonna measure my warm-up sets here because I wanna see kind of what this number looks like as we are progressing through these warm-up sets. Although I'm not a science-based lifter and I don't use the exact science on the movements that I do to dictate what I'm going to be doing that day, and I'm not looking to be the most optimal this, that, or the other. Using velocity and tracking that, if we're focusing on certain aspects of a movement using velocity, so on this one, we're gonna be looking at like the eccentric rate of force development. How quickly can I create force in the opposite direction of that eccentric motion to stop that movement and move back into the opposite direction? Now, understanding a little bit of science can help me kind of gamify this a little bit so I can be able to hit eccentric numbers that I wanna see. Two things I could do is decelerate the bar faster, meaning get that bar to a complete stop in a millisecond. Or let's say it takes me a tenth of a second to actually decelerate the bar, stand myself back up. If I have 40 kilos and it takes me 0.1 seconds to decelerate the bar versus if I have 50 kilos and it takes me 0.1 seconds to decelerate the bar, I have to create more eccentric force to stop heavier loads. So as I'm kind of gamifying this and I'm looking at the numbers, I'll start off with 40 kilos, see how quickly it's allowing me to stop that bar, which should feel pretty easy. We'll put 50 kilos on the bar. And even if I stop at the exact same rate as I did with 40 kilos, the eccentric force should raise because I'm stopping a heavier load at the same time frame in which I was stopping a lighter load. So we keep increasing that load to 60, 70 kilos today until we get to the point where we're starting to see a drop off, meaning that we're slowing down heavier loads slower than what we were doing with the previous loads, which would make the eccentric forces start to drop down a little bit. And that's gonna be the point at where I kind of cut it. So 40 kilos on the bar here. I have to input the weight so it knows the deceleration. And now we'll do a couple warm-up sets here. No, that one hit the ground. All right, so now if I look at this, go back to set one, I'm looking at performance, peak, eccentric, RFD, 11,000 newtons, 9,000 newtons. So now we go to set two. We're gonna tell the machine we're gonna be at 50 kilos, try to stop it at that same rate, and we should see 11,000 kilos bump up a little bit. So we look at set number two here. Yeah, so now we're at 12,000, 14,000, 11,000. So heavier load, stopping it essentially at the same rate is going to increase the amount of eccentric force that we're experiencing because we're stopping heavier loads quickly. So now we're gonna go to 60 kilos, which I'm gonna count this as my first set. So I'll throw on another 10, I'll put the collars back on, and we'll do our first set of 6 here at 60 kilos. All right, so now I'm gonna count this as my first working set. We're gonna do 4 sets here. As long as I can stop the bar at the same rate of what I did with the 50 kilos, we should see that 12 to 13,000 newtons per second start to bump up even more. So if it jumps up considerably, then we'll add another 5 kilos, we'll do another set, and we'll do that all the way up to about 70 kilos today, just to kind of see what those differences are as we continue to build. And also, when we're talking about velocities and stuff, if anybody is watching this video and they understand this better than I do, which the percentage chance of that happening is fairly high. Because like I said, I have a pedestrian knowledge when it comes to tracking via velocity and trying to elicit specific adaptations through velocities. Go ahead and chime in and let me know if I'm wrong, because I am more than happy to be wrong and able to learn how to do this better so I can make sure that I'm doing the right things, or at least this is how my mind is working, and this is the reason why I do the things, which I think talking through this is helping me understand a little bit. So we'll do our set of 6 here. Ooh, that one cheated a little bit. There we go. Oh, this bar, because it spins, is a little bit tricky when you grab it at the bottom. I think using a power bar might actually be better for this. But if we look at velocities here, yeah, I mean, look at the 12,000, 16,000. So we're bumping up. I had one rep that says it was 20,000, 812, and then 19,782, 16,286, and that was rep 4, 5, and 6. So right as I was starting to feel that bar slide, you could see that eccentric rate of force was starting to drop down a little bit. But that's a pretty significant bump from the 11 to 12,000 that we were doing. So now I'm going to put on another 5 kilos, and we'll be at 65, and we'll do our set of 6 there and see what kind of numbers we get on the next set. Oof. 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 No, that one I cheated. I barely let go of the bar on that one. That spin is killing me. I might have to switch barbells here. Yeah, so the eccentric rate of force went down to averaging about 14,000 on that one. So some 12s, some 16s, and a couple 14s. I felt sloppy on that one as well though. So I think what I'm gonna do is, because this bar is spinning around a lot, I'm gonna switch out to a power bar. I'm gonna keep the weight here because I wanna see if that's gonna switch out the confidence I have in dropping that bar, because it feels like as I'm trying to catch it, it wants to roll out of my hands. So I'm gonna switch bars here and then we'll do another set. All right, we switched over to a power bar, and a Leico power bar nonetheless, which means the knurling on this thing is fucking insane. A Leico makes great equipment, but they go a little absurd with their knurling sometimes. No. We look at that previous set. Yeah, newtons just stay about the same. 15,000 was the highest, 13,000 was the average on that. So changing the bar, of being a little bit more confident in that catch, definitely gave us a different reading. But I'm wondering here for this last set, if I want to go back down to 60 and see if that changes pretty significantly. So I know I've said I'm not going to let the velocity dictate the load on the bar, but I don't have specific percentages I want to be at for something like a drop catch RDL. So I think it's okay if I switch it out here. So I'm going to take the 5s off, go back down to 60 kilos, and we'll play around with this and see if that changes the peak eccentric forces that I'm seeing on this. Oh, that was off. There we go. So we lightened the load a little bit. We look at what we got and stayed relatively the same. 11, 12s, and 13s. So we're pretty close to the same, although the first set we did at 60 kilos, our average was 12,300 newtons. And this set here, our average was 9,475 because we did have a bad rep there, which kind of brought that down. So I'd say probably if you take that bad rep out, it's probably about the same, but definitely have higher eccentric forces with the 60 kilos than we did with the 65 kilos. And then this is where figuring out what the best move for yourself is going to be. Like, are we going to chase the newtons, or do we want to push the load and try to keep the newtons from dropping too much? Is 12,000 newtons enough Or is 9,000 newtons enough? Because if it's 9, then I could probably add another 10 kilos onto the bar, work with heavier loads, possibly getting a little bit stronger, even though it's sacrificing the newtons a little bit and the force that I'm seeing on each of those reps. This is, like I'm saying, I have a pedestrian knowledge of this. I don't know exactly what would be the best implementation of this type of movements for this specific block, which is like a hybrid between strength and power. We're not necessarily pushing strength or we're trying to lift the heaviest loads possible, but we are trying to lift heavier loads. Around 80%, 85% is the peak that we'll hit for this training block for this 4 weeks, but we're trying to move those quickly. So that's why I say it's like a hybrid strength power type of stuff, because we're choosing variations like a box squat and a pin press that's going to allow us to move those percentages a little bit faster than doing full range of motion reps for each of those movements. I don't know the answer to this, but I definitely feel my hamstrings. I definitely feel my hip flexors and my abs. That was the one thing I noticed when I did this last week, is my hip flexors and specifically like my lower abdomen got very sore Wednesday and Thursday of last week. So the day after and 2 days after doing this. And a lot of that is because I'm dropping that weight and I am rapidly flexing at the hip to try to get down into that position. And then when I catch that bar, I've got to maintain the ability to remain stiff and stop that. So like you got to use your core, you got to use your hamstrings obviously to stop that. And then you're pulling yourself back up. So that part to me was very interesting, was the hip flexors and the core being very sore from doing this last week. So that's it for the RDLs. Now we're gonna move over to the bench press, knock off some bench press reps. Like I said, I was gonna blend today into kind of a full body session so I can go back out to the track tomorrow and do a little bit more running. So we're gonna do some sets of 6 on a pin press, probably be around 135 to 140 kilos today. All right, I'm just being honest. The warm-up sets I did not feel too hot. I went 70, 120, and then I'm just straight to 140. This is where my working sets are gonna be at. 120 felt like a struggle, so I'm hoping I don't get buried underneath 140 right now. All right, let's go. Well, looks like we're doing 4s today. 6 was not gonna be there. Oh my God, that feels weak. My bench press has gone to shit. That's the price you gotta pay when you wanna try to run fast. Which also I'm excited, like if I do, no matter what program I do next, whether it's an updated version of 2.0 or we start doing the Apex, both of those have progressions for the bench press. And when I first did Unit 2.0, that's when I hit my all-time best on the bench press. I hit 190 kilos. I think it was towards the end of that program. Somewhere, it's a 16-week program. I think it was like week 13 or 14. I ended up hitting 190 on that. I also ended up power cleaning 190 off of blocks, which is the heaviest power clean I've ever done, which is why I wanted to go back to that program, because those are 2 things I think I need to focus on in the next program. Is like obviously summer speed, we're trying to get as fast as we possibly can, which means we're gonna sacrifice some strength in some places. I had the idea of running 2.0 again, changing some progressions on the track and making the sprinting a little bit different, and then obviously changing some things in the weight room. But I just wanna get back into lifting heavy again and trying to get as strong as possible while also being as fast as possible. So the Unit 2.0 program is a great program. And because I want to edit it, it doesn't mean that it's a bad program. I just have new ideas I think I want to implement into it. But then also with Apex, we still got to run a 40. We still got to do max bench press reps. So I would need to increase the bench press. The only thing that I probably wouldn't focus too much on would be the power clean, because there's no power clean in the Apex. It's a trap bar deadlift AMRAP at 315. So we would obviously keep the trap bar in there. So how about you guys let me know? If you're on the subscription program, let me know what you want to do next. Or if you're just someone who follows along with the videos and you watch and you like the training, what would you rather see? Training for the Apex, which is those 7 events, which also means I have to run a mile, which I'm not too excited about doing that. Or going back to a revised, updated version of Unit 2.0 and trying to essentially just get as strong as possible, as fast as possible, a lot of more vertical jump emphasis on some things that we do. Really is what Unit was founded on, was the Unit 2.0 program. So let me know what you want while I struggle through these next 4 reps on the bench press. Oof. Oh, yep. All right, I got at least one more set in me. I don't know if I'm gonna do 4 sets. 3 sets of 4 is fine, rather than doing 4 sets of 6. But I think I will do some rows after this just because I want to do a little bit. I think tomorrow is going to be just a track day. I'm not going to come back into the weight room. So I'll probably do some bench over rows to finish off this session as well. All right, and the last thing I'm going to do today is just some dumbbell rows. Probably just do 2 to 3 sets, 4 to 6 reps on each side, and then be done with the day. Ooh. Oh, yeah, I think 3 sets on that is going to be good for the day. But I appreciate y'all for watching. This is going to be the end of the video. If you like what you see, make sure to like. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Other than that, I'll catch y'all in the next one.